Justin, and we are a sports show that loves to cover everything related to sports. We like to cover the stories that the bigger networks will not cover, and we are aimed to give attention to programs that do big things. And one of those things that we really love here on this show is upsets. We love seeing when a team pulls off a surprising result and really makes what seems like the impossible happen. And I am joined today by Bryce of Gov Talk here. Bryce, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Justin. Thanks for having me. Myself and Justin we've been friends for a couple years now, and I run Gov Talk, which is about the Austin Peay Governors. I'm a graduate of Austin Peay, uh, born and raised in Clarksville, Tennessee, right here by campus. And if you didn't know, we had a very notable event happen last weekend. So Austin Peay had a game against Middle Tennessee State, who's a in-state rival. They're FBS, we're FCS, and 15-point underdogs. Didn't matter. They weren't ready for the P. The Govs came out and won by 20 points. First FBS win in 40 years. So I'd say that qualifies as an upset.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it was truly impressive because, like you said, had not done this since 1987.
Yeah.
And Austin P was coming off a bit of a reset year, 4-8 season after Scotty Walden left to lead them the playoffs in 2023, and they rolled into Murfreesboro like as if they were North Dakota State, like just took control from the start, took a 21-0 lead, and you guys just never looked back. So when we look at that, like you guys came in acting like as if you owned the place basically. What was behind the sense of belief for the coaches, the players, and the program? That could be a long answer, as long of an answer as you want. But
Yeah.
what was behind that?
So a lot of people that aren't local might not know, but Murfreesboro, where Middle Tennessee plays, is only a little over an hour from Clarksville, where we play. So it's not a far game. A lot of Austin Peay's players grew up around both Clarksville and Murfreesboro, surround Nashville. So we're both kind of suburbs of Nashville. So most of our players grew up in the area. A lot of them have friends on Middle Tennessee's team. They played high school with a lot of their players. And so that was part of it. That we had a couple players that had 20, 30 people, family and friends in the crowd. So that was part of it, motivation, hometown. And then another part of it was the drought. All the players were well aware of the drought. I mentioned it on my show multiple times. In my entire life, Austin Peay has never beaten an FBS team. They were all very aware of that, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to do it. A team that went 3-9 last year, so they kind of smelled blood in the water. And then also the fact that I don't know how familiar you or the audience is with Austin Peay's roster, but there's a lot of guys on there that have played some like actual big games in college football. Like our quarterback Chris Parson played at Mississippi State. We have several guys from East Carolina, a couple Duke guys, a couple North Carolina guys, a Purdue guy. So we have a lot of experience on our roster. We have a lot of veteran college football players that have played in meaningful games before. And I think that combined with the local aspect of it, the in-state rivalry, and then wanting to finally get that chip off their shoulder, all that kind of combined into this, nobody was going to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, it seemed like they maintained the intensity throughout the game. Is that kind of what you noticed as well?
For sure, like I think, so I was very impressed with, not that, I mean, it's the first week of the season. Everybody is kind of fiery, ready to go. But I was especially impressed with how our guys just seemed like to be up a higher notch. And it was crazy. Like even at the end of the game, when you're an FCS team and you're a big underdog, you never really feel comfortable during the game. But towards the end, when it seemed like okay, we might actually win this thing, our guys were still playing hard. They were still tackling hard, like still swarming to the ball. They didn't never let up. Like even when it was became pretty clear that we were going to walk out of there with a win, they never let up. And it just goes to show Jeff Ferris. I mean, I can't talk enough about how much he's turned the program around. It's really, really spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was very, very impressive. And I mean, from the sideline, like, how soon could you feel the energy for this team, like, where they felt like they could get this done?
So I did on so yeah, okay, the game was on Saturday, and the Thursday, last Thursday, I actually did an interview with our starting left tackle, Eli Sutton. And he's one of the guys that is from the Murfreesboro area, had a lot of family there. And he pretty much told me that they're going to be surprised. Like, we got something for them, they're going to be surprised. So their confidence level was high, you know, all throughout the summer. And then he kind of told me that, and that kind of made me, because I asked him, I was like, am I crazy? Because I actually, in our preview show, I actually predicted Austin Peay to win. Like, I chalked this up as a W. Well, I didn't think it would be as convincing as it was. But, yeah, when we got there, first of all, it was not really an away game. There was a ton of red and black in the stands. And like I said, a ton of players had friends and family there, so they were coming up talking before the game. They were so loose. There was no nerves. It didn't seem like. I mean, I'm sure they were, but it didn't. They didn't seem to be nervous. They seemed to be ready to go.
Man, that is awesome. It really, it's one of the beautiful things that you get when you get like two regional opponents playing like this. Like that is something that I always enjoy about college football and like to see in college football. Obviously, we know the bigger networks seem to want to tell us that's not important anymore. I think it is, and it brings us an exciting show. Now, I'm sure Middle Tennessee State people will probably disagree because of how things ended up, but I think it's a lot of fun when you have a game like that where it's close enough to where you've got alums from both sides in the stands,
Yeah,
and it makes for a really cool environment. So really,
yeah.
like, what is really in comparison to last year's team? What is different about this year's team compared to last?
So there's a lot. So there was a stat last week that I talked about on our show where there's 83 players on the roster that could make their debut this year, and there's like 107 players on the roster. So 83 players are potentially playing their first snap for the Govs. And that's been a thing that they've gotten some national recognition for how well they've attacked the transfer portal. So if you look at the 247 Sports ratings, transfer portal ratings, Austin Peay has like the first or second best transfer portal class among all FCS teams. So obviously that helps. I mean, you have, like I said, Chris Parson, our quarterback. He played at Mississippi State and played in a few games. And then Javius Bond, our kick returner and cornerback, played at East Carolina. Our offensive line is extremely experienced. That's probably the biggest thing I would say. I mean, Chris Parson, though, Chris Parson, no offense to Austin Smith, who he was our quarterback last year and he's still here. No offense to him, but Chris Parson coming in, you can just tell this is a guy who's a different level. He was making the throws. He was throwing the ball down the field. We were burning Middle Tennessee secondary. So having a real quarterback who's been there before and then completely remaking the offensive line. So there's only one starter that is the same from last year, and that is the all-conference center, Chandler Curtin. Other than that, the starting offensive line is completely different. So, and then the wide receivers are completely different as well. There's three new starting wide receivers this year, and all three of them had good games against Middle. So, like all the transfers like made an immediate impact.
That's pretty impressive because I mean, you see this a lot of teams trying to revamp through the portal and stuff, and we've seen a lot of times, especially during this week one, where a team full of transfers didn't really mesh that well and kind of struggled out of the gate. There's a little bit of rustiness. What really helped this team pull together and really just swim all in the right direction so quickly?
Yeah, so it's kind of a cliche answer, but one, I would say the belief that they have a great culture. Jeff Ferris, it's his second year. He's a young head coach, but he's been around some great coaches. So he was at UCLA under Chip Kelly. He was his tight ends coach. He was at Duke for a decade. So he knows the importance of a culture, and he knows, it's not just about, you don't play the game on paper. So they've really cultivated a family atmosphere. And I know, like, a lot of people say that, like, we have a great culture, but they really do. Like, all summer, they were out in the community doing things. They were out doing stuff together as a team, like they do team dinner every week where they all get to the coach's house and have dinner together. It's just a family atmosphere, and I think that helped kind of help them mesh quicker. And also, a lot of our guys have an underdog, like a chip on their shoulder, because, like I said, a lot of them dropped down from FBS. So they came down to this level and they feel like they have something to prove, um, and they're hungry. So I think that's ultimately the difference.
I love it. I love it. And really, it's going to be interesting to see kind of moving forward now, looking a little bit ahead, because I think we learned week one that the UAC is going to be pretty loaded as a conference this year. We
Yeah.
saw quite a few big time results. We saw Tarleton State take down the Army, and the Texans look like they're potentially one of the top teams at the FCS level this year. Southern
Yeah.
Utah was a team that I was really high on entering the year, and they showed their worth by taking down an Idaho State team that had given UNLV a struggle in week zero. And Southern Utah did that easily. Like they rolled from the start of that game. And then you also look at other teams like Eastern Kentucky made the playoffs last year, Abilene Christian made the playoffs last year, and then you even have like Utah Tech, who was the worst team in the conference last year, nearly took down UC Davis. So this
Yeah.
conference looks stacked from top to bottom. So when you've got this confidence builder right off the bat here and seeing this team roll together, how do you think that that helps them and will allow them to fare in this loaded conference?
I think it definitely helps, starting off on such a high note because, like you said, so many other teams in the conference started off on a high note. So you feel like you're not behind the eight ball at all because you have your own crazy accomplishment. We're the FCS team of the week, so it was nice to follow up because Tarleton destroyed Portland State in week zero, and then they beat Army, who was like a borderline playoff team, and then you have um, you know, Abilene. I actually was surprised by Abilene a little bit because I was telling my buddies Abilene was predicted to finish first or second in the UAC, and I thought Tulsa was a game they might be able to get, but ultimately didn't. And then, like you,
That game was actually I think entering the week was number one on most likely FCS over FBS
oh
upsets.
yeah,
So I think the Tulsa team kind of saw that and responded.
yeah. Well, that and then you had, like you mentioned, Utah Tech. Utah Tech was terrible last year, and they took UC Davis to the absolute brink. So that was impressive to me. That makes me think they're not going to roll over for anybody. Something that nobody really talked about: West Georgia destroyed Samford, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Samford is usually not terrible. I mean, Samford, and when Samford's on our schedule too. So seeing in West Georgia was another team that's predicted to finish near the bottom of the conference. EKU and Central Arkansas are kind of in the middle of the conference, but they both had to play really good FBS teams, so I don't think you can read too much into that. And then Southern Utah, like I thought what Southern Utah did against Idaho State was very impressive. I mean, Idaho State just took UNLV to the brink, and then Southern Utah kind of made it look a little easy. So it's definitely a tough conference. I think it's a very underrated conference. I think um, I honestly think there's five teams in the UAC that could make noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it feels like based on these early results, we're starting to see the UAC kind of pull up closer towards that Big Sky Missouri Valley tier than the ones below it. So
Right.
it's been very exciting to see so far, and I'm definitely very curious to see how that develops. And for Austin Peay, obviously, hopefully, yeah, after this game, you get a nice easy game to build momentum, right? Is that the case? Huh?
I wish. We got to pay some bills. We're playing Georgia.
Yeah. So got to get past that one a little bit. But after the Georgia game, we actually talked off air. You have Morehead State coming up, so
Yep.
kind of the opposite of the Georgia game. But for that home opener, tell us why, if you're in the Clarksville area, which is kind of along that Tennessee Kentucky border, why do you need to be at that opening game?
Because this team just did something that hasn't been done in most of your lives. And it's something that, if you were alive, you probably don't remember when the last time it happened was. Um, this is an exciting team. This is a chance to see SEC level talents, a couple of them at least, in Clarksville. Uh, they play hard. They play very hard. They're exciting. They never give up. It's the best show in town. We say it all the time. It's Clarksville's hometown team. I'm Justin. I'm not sure how familiar you are, but 99% of people who live in Clarksville are Tennessee Vol fans. So you can still be a Vol fan and root for an FCS team. So that's my pitch to everybody is, watch your Tennessee game. Watch your Tennessee's playing like UAB or somebody. You know, just you can keep up with Tennessee. Come out and support Clarksville's hometown team. This is the team that has a chance to really do something special. They already did do something special, and it's right there in front of us. It's not super expensive to go. It's a great venue. I think it's one of the best venues in the FCS. I think it's one of the most exciting teams in the FCS. So come on out there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's much more affordable, family friendly than the Tennessee game where they're raising the prices like crazy to afford NIL. You'll have that at Austin Peay, and it's a great thing. Going to we're forgetting these days that going to a live event is so much fun to do, and I think going to a game there would definitely be a lot of fun. Tell us about the game experience at Austin Peay.
Yeah, so it's really awesome, and they actually, even when last year was a tough year. We went 4-8, but the crowds were great last year. So if you're going to come out there to watch a 4-8 team, you come out there to watch a great team. So you go up to Forterra Stadium. They're offering a really cool package this year. So they do this thing called the VIP, like Austin Peay VIP zone, and you get to stand on the field behind the north end zone. You get to stand behind the field, and you get like you're on the field watching the game, and you get free Buffalo Wild Wings, free drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. You get all of that. You get to stand there, watch the team practice, watch them play. You get to watch the whole game from the field's perspective. You get free food and drinks, and it's $40. Like you can't beat that. Like you get to stand on the field and watch a college game for $40. So
That is really awesome.
yeah, it's a great deal, and a lot of people did it last year. So I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty full this year too.
Yeah, that's really cool. So tell us a little bit more about Austin Peay. Like, what are some facts about the program that a lot of people don't know?
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't know is I think now, after a couple years ago, Austin Peay played at Tennessee at Neyland, and it was like closer than a lot of people would have thought. It was like 30-13, but for a while it was like 13-7. Like Austin Peay played Tennessee really tough. So I feel like ever since then we kind of have a reputation as like a scrappy FCS team. But before, when I went to school there, my first year of school, we actually went 0-11. Like we didn't win a single game. And there was even a time in the 90s where we did not have a football team at all. Like we cut the football team because of, like financial issues. So it has not always been good, to say the least. There's obviously been a lot of like good flash in the pan moments, but this since about 2018 has from 2018 to now has been like probably the pinnacle of Austin Peay. We had a couple conference championships. We did make the FCS playoffs in 2023. So it's kind of been like the highlight of Austin Peay's football history right now. Um, it's actually Will Healy. So Will Healy is the coach. That's kind of it's a name guys like you probably know. He was credited with kind of bringing us out of the abyss, and he actually got the job at Charlotte, and then took Charlotte to their first bowl win ever. Um, and then he's now the head coach at East Tennessee State. So he's back in Tennessee. And then after him, we had something happen, and then Scotty Walden was brought in, and Scotty Walden took us to the FCS playoffs, and now he's the head coach at UTEP. So it's kind of been used as a stepping stone job, and like we understand that, like it's FCS, but there's been two solid, promising young head coaches that have had success here recently and parlayed that into FBS jobs. So it's an interesting little tidbit if anybody didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and like I feel like I've noticed a little pattern between the two because I feel like both Scotty Walden and Will Healy were both like young, very high energy guys.
Yeah.
Rally the community around the team with their energy and everything.
And Ferris is that way too.
Yeah, I figured like the way you were talking about him earlier. I was like, it sounds like he is kind of made of the same cloth as those two. So I think Austin Peay has kind of found their way to have success, and of course, it also helps that they're the fastest growing university in Tennessee. The last time I was in Nashville, I saw a billboard.
So another like interesting thing a lot of people might not know is part of the reason why it's the fastest growing university in Tennessee is because Clarksville is also home to Fort Campbell, which is one of the largest Army bases in the country. So we have a very large military population here, and Austin Peay has a large non-traditional student base. So Austin Peay has a lot of older students and a lot of military students. So that's our basketball coach actually dresses in military fatigues at the games, and people
Remember that.
for some people don't like that, but they don't understand that it's totally like to honor. We live next to one of the biggest military bases. A lot of our fans are military. We do a lot of work on base, so it's a college that's very intertwined with the U.S. military.
Very cool, very cool. And what is behind the governor's nickname for those that don't know?
So Austin Peay was the governor of Tennessee, and he was from Clarksville. So that's why I know it's like a very unique. It's not like the most intimidating nickname, I guess, but he was actually the 35th governor of Tennessee, and the school was named after him.
Very cool, very cool.
A lot of
Yeah,
people
I found
think,
it.
sorry, a lot of people think like when they hear Austin, they don't realize it's like somebody's name. They think that we're in Texas. Like a lot of people always assume that Austin Peay's in Texas. So
Yeah, there's probably there could be people listening that are just finding out now where Austin Peay is located. Um, I found that billboard very entertaining because like I was hoping to see this weekend Tennessee State is playing North Dakota State in the Titan Stadium, and I was hoping to see a billboard for that, but there isn't. And as you know, as someone that watches FCS, like there are going to be a lot of North Dakota State fans at this game.
oh yeah.
But the thing is, they're not advertising anywhere. So, if you're in Nashville, Broadway is going to be a movie on Friday because there's going to be all these North Dakota State fans there, and nobody's going to know why they're there.
So it is kind of crazy. Like I feel like Austin Peay's staff and our fan base just do a great job of marketing ourselves better than some other schools that are our size, because like even like when we made the trip to Murfreesboro for the opener, and you don't even really see anything around Murfreesboro about Middle Tennessee State. And Middle Tennessee State is the biggest school in Tennessee by population. A lot of people don't know that, but it's bigger than UT. And they did not advertise it at all. Like there's if you drive around downtown Clarksville or just Clarksville in general, you see Austin Peay stuff everywhere. And I just thought that was kind of weird. Like you don't see the same thing for Tennessee State or you know MTSU. And I guess it's because Nashville, you have a ton of stuff to do in Nashville. There's it's not the only game in town, so that probably plays a role.
Right. It's just very strange to me. Like, I don't know why, like, some don't choose to market themselves, you know? Like, I think, I mean, it didn't stop Austin P from putting that billboard in Nashville. So, I don't know. That's kind of one of the things, like, I feel like that's a good thing that we've been seeing Austin P kind of step up with
Right.
is their marketing. And you're starting to see that pay off a little bit, which, by the way, in that realm a little bit, I know, like, when they initially joined the UAC was going to be this league that wanted, all these teams want to have FBS aspirations. And so now that question always gets attached to every single one of these teams. Do you think Austin P still has those FBS aspirations now?
No. Um, pretty comfortably no. At least not in the near future. I talked a couple months ago. I talked to our athletic director at the time, who actually is now the athletic director at Marshall. Which, by the way, that's probably a good sign that our AD and our coaches keep getting hired by FBS schools. I mean, that probably means we're doing something right. But he went to Marshall, but I had him on and I asked him about that on the podcast because at one point there was that was like heavily implied that it was going to be happening. And Forterra Stadium, which is where we play football, was designed to be expanded for like the FBS level. Um, Unfortunately, though, with the way that some of the other teams have kind of been pushed to the forefront, like, just in the past few years, off the top of my head, Kennesaw State, Sam Houston, Missouri State, Delaware, all these new schools coming in. You're at 136, I believe, and you have to have an invitation first. And it's kind of at the point where we don't really know what's gonna. Everybody kind of feels like there's about to be a shoe drop with like revenue sharing and with realignment, being kind of wacky. So I think right now it's not really in the plans. I think especially with I don't know if you know this or not, but the conference kind of alliance that came out with the WAC. Do you know about this?
I didn't know they named it WAC now, but I do know they decided just to fully be UAC, WAC, and then they were
Yeah.
going to be both football, basketball, and all sports really.
Yeah, so like if people don't know, in baseball, soccer, basketball, we play in the ASUN, which is us and then like a bunch of Florida schools, and there's a couple that carry over. And in football, we go to the UAC, and it's Austin P, North Alabama, and Eastern Kentucky. Like those are the teams that travel with us. Like we do both together. But going forward, the plan is to just stay in with the WAC, the UAC. So you're still going to have some non-conference games. So like in baseball, you might not know, but in baseball, our biggest rival is Stetson, which is in Florida. So under this new alignment, Stetson is not going to be a common opponent unless we want them to be a non-con game. So I like it. Um, I like it because it's interesting, like the rivalry aspect of it. Because everybody that's a Gov fan hates. We call it that school in Callaway County. It's Murray State. So everybody back from the OVC days when we were in the Ohio Valley Conference, Murray State was our biggest rival in every sport. Um, and that's not really a thing anymore. So now, like North Alabama has kind of taken that mantle because it's about the same distance as Murray State. It's about 2 hours away. So well, they're going to be with us. So that's kind of like our new rival. So like we know we're going to play them in every sport. So that makes me kind of excited because I like the continuity. I don't like playing a team in football and then you don't see them again until the next football season. Like I want to play them in
Right.
everything.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for the fans. And it's good to have those natural rivalries kind of in there a little bit. And I think Eastern Kentucky is kind of another one you can look at too. That at least is a regional opponent. I don't know how much beef there is between you two, but I know at least obviously there's a lot of regionality. What actually was it North Alabama where things like this past year or so, like in basketball, things got really heated?
Yeah, and baseball and football. Like
Okay,
we don't like each other at all.
I love it,
Yeah.
love it. um, so that do you have any closing thoughts on OSP before we could transition to some quick thoughts here on Tennessee?
No, man, just everybody get out and support this team. They're doing some crazy stuff, and you know, it's fun to watch FCS. People might not think FCS is, oh, it's bad quality, it's bad. No, it can be really really fun.
FCS is like what you remember college football being. It
Yeah.
is. It really is like a more, you don't have all the drama around TV or the playoff and all that. Like that is what is beautiful about FCS football and why maybe if you're not local to Clarksville, checking out your local FCS team for that reason is always a good thing. So we'll do some FBS in here though. So Tennessee opened their season against Syracuse. Obviously, some question marks about what were things going to look like with without what were things going to look like without Joey Aguilar, or with Joey Aguilar, and what do you think about their offense so far?
So I think I don't miss Nico at all. I don't think anybody really does. Anybody that watched it, I don't think anybody really misses Nico. I mean, I know it's a one game sample size, so I'm not gonna read too much into it. But I think it's exciting. It reminded us of the 2022 Hendon Hooker offense, where it was just high flying, 60 points. It's not rare to score 40, 50, 60 points. And you didn't really get that with Nico. I think, people can say it's sour grapes. Um, but if you look back objectively, other than like Kent State last year and maybe NC State, you never really got that ceiling that you thought you were going to get with Nico. And I think we're kind of realizing now, oh my God, like Joey's a guy who has a cannon for an arm, isn't afraid to take shots down the field. And yeah, he's going to make some mistakes, but we're going to live with that because, you live by the D ball, you die by the D ball. I'm excited about the offense. I think it's scary not having, like the security blanket Dylan Sampson, but I don't think it's. I honestly think the offense will finish better this year than it did last year.
Yeah, and already I think early indications show that. It just I ended up turning it off pretty quickly and going to another game because Tennessee was winning by so much, but it looked like the offense had a much better flow to it. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. This will be the show. We'll end up because our intern was not able to join us today. He had some issues with an emergency he had to attend to. So we'll
Understandable.
be releasing our week 2 picks just on X and the other platforms if we're able to get to it. But I know at least they'll be on X. So we will not be having the picks on the show. We'll be wrapping up here. Bryce, where can people find you?
You can find me on X at GovTalk931, and you can find us on anywhere you get your podcasts. If you type in GovTalk, you'll find us there. Spotify, Apple, Google Play Store, any of that. We're there. Our podcast is there, and we're also on Facebook at GovTalk and Austin P Podcast. So that's that. Let's go P.
There we go. There we go. I love it. Thank you for joining the show. Everyone, make sure you give them a follow. It's really great to see coverage for programs like Austin P and other FCS programs really get the coverage that they deserve because there's so many storylines beyond what are the same surface storylines that you see from the larger media networks that I mean really are getting to quite the tipping point now where even some of their own are mentioning, hey, we're going way too toxic into this now. Michael Wilbon's comments is what I'm specifically referencing there.
Mm.
But and obviously, if you're hoping to hear from different storylines that are not the same. Obviously, you can give us a follow as well. We are Updog Sports Talk. You can find us on X and Twitter, and I meant to say Twitter because I don't know, the X thing still confuses me to this day.
Yeah, I know.
We're on TikTok, Facebook, all of your platforms for social media, as well as here on YouTube and anywhere else that you get your podcasts. Thank you for joining us, and have a great week.
Thank you.